back, Ram fans. This is Rams Up, your favorite LA Rams podcast. We are proud members of the Fans First Sports Network. That's fansfirstsports.com. You can also follow us on YouTube. Our channel is at LA Rams Up. I'm your host, Mark. You'll hear from my co-host, Tom, on occasion as well. Hey, we're not Rams insiders. We're just longtime fans who love talking about our Los Angeles Rams. Let's get to it.
Welcome to another edition of Rams Up Roundtable, joined this evening by my co-host Mark, as well as our regulars Ian and Paul. How you guys doing tonight?
Doing great here.
Still smarting from that loss. But
yeah, it's just disappointing. And I think, you know what, in a macro, not a micro, but the micro is sad, football depression, Rams losing depression and all that. But the macro is, gentlemen, we were on this pod a couple months ago at 3-6. We were talking about the future in the 2024 draft, and we were like, all right, let's see who emerges, who's worthy of being kept on this team for the future. And we made the tournament and we put on a good show for the whole nation to see. So I think while the loss is crappy, and we're going to get into some things I was unhappy to see, at least on the Rams side that they had control over. What a season. Who would have thought?
Yeah, Paul, thoughts?
Shout out to the guy, man. Broke the rookie record single game. Puka just smashing records on the regular, man. The dude is a beast. And the age factor, he's so young. He did it in his rookie season. So we're going to see a lot more of records being just obliterated by this youngster. Just Rams are really fortunate they have a star weapon like that that's going to be available to Matthew Stafford for the next couple of seasons. So shout out to him.
Yeah, I like the way you put it, Ian. And I'm rolling with the macro. The micro, I was pretty upset, a little rough night sleeping, but I'm ready to move on. And I was thinking about it this way, you know how they talk about in the NCAA basketball, the blue blood programs, the Kentuckys, the UCLAs, the North Carolinas, the Dukes. And I think the Rams have become, under McVay, a blue blood NFL program. They are there every year. Had one down year, but everybody knows who we are now. Everybody expects us to make a playoff run. Everybody expects us to be a force moving forward, and we will be. And it's just a really good place to be. Disappointing game, sure, especially when we see Tampa Bay won, Green Bay won. It was setting up perfectly, but I'm going micro again, so I'll stop right there. Just really happy with the place the Rams are right now.
Well, let's just stick on the game for a few minutes and get a couple of thoughts from everybody. So out of all the playoff games, was there 6 or something like that? They were all double digit wins, and a lot of blowouts, with the exception of one game, which was our game, which was a 1-point game, right? So after watching the Eagles, I mean, it's pretty clear, and the Cowboys, who just literally can't figure out how to show up.
Real quick, Tom. I will say, my day could have been way worse, but it was great to see Dallas choke another playoff game. And you know what? And you know what it is, gentlemen? A majority of my friends, probably like 7 of them are my good best friends. They're Cowboy fans because they're family. They grew up into it. And hey, what can you do on that? Oh, what a great afternoon it was turning out to be. And I was like, Rams are going to win. Yeah. It's going to be a great Sunday. So I just wanted to tease them if they're going to listen later to this.
The Cowboys and then the Eagles yesterday. And it became pretty clear that after this round was over, that the Lions are the second best team in the NFC, and we were right there with them, right? And so, anyway, just having framed it up like that, let's just give a couple of minutes of thoughts, game analysis, for our last game, and then we'll move on to the bigger picture. So go ahead, Paul.
Yeah. So last week I said this game will come down to red zone efficiency for the Rams, right? And that's what it did, right? So you had a 40% touchdown conversion rate, right? 5 trips, 2 touchdowns, settled for field goals, and that's what cost them the game, right? And that's a trend we've been talking about all year, right? That when the other thing is that when players get hot, you have to feed them. Early on in the game, Davis Allen was hot. They didn't feed him, right? Caught 2 passes early.
True.
The kid looked like he came to play. They didn't feed him. At one stretch, Ronnie Rivers got hot. We were texting right before they got into the red zone. Rivers was just killing it and threw 3 straight passes and sort of got bogged down in the red zone. So that red zone efficiency came back to bite them in the end here in this game. They held Detroit to 3 points in the second half, and then to lose the game. So that's number one.
Real quick, well, I'm going to add to that, Paul. I'm going to add to that. It was boiling in my blood because it's something I wanted to talk about. Excuse me. Oh my God, man. We talk about it on this pod all the time. Run the damn football. I know I say it a lot. Kyren only got the ball 13 times this game. What are we doing? And you know what? I was having healthy conversations, not like the war zone that's on the internet going on between Rams and Detroit internet factions right now. Talking to my own fan base about the carries and the lack of opportunities for Kyren. I mean, guys, 13 carries, which is his second lowest carry total for the entire season. The only game that was worse was the Monday Night Bengal game where he only got 10 carries. He got 61 yards off those 13 carries, which is his 4th lowest. But again, that's because he didn't get the ball much. 0 touchdowns overall, which is obviously tied for the worst for his season mark. But he was averaged 4.7 yards per carry. That's 3rd best average for the entire season. All those games he was going 120, 140, 150. This game with limited carries, he was 4.7. And yes, maybe if he got a little bit more, that average would go down. But dude, when he was getting the ball, he was effective. And you know what else is frustrating? He only got the ball 2 times in the 3 red zone trips. Unacceptable.
Did Detroit a favor on that one?
Unacceptable. Because, guys, he's gone up into this game. He's gone 60 touches, either carries or a couple swing passes or screens. He's gone 13 total touchdowns in that red zone. 60 touches, 13 touchdowns. He's scoring touchdowns on 21% of the time he gets the ball in the red zone. That's top 5 in the NFL. Top 5.
And to add to that, as a team, they had 17 rushes. As a team, they had 17 rushes. And all 4 of us watched the Packer game, right?
Yeah.
And I texted, right, the squad. I said, Aaron Jones is a straight beast, right? That's how you win the playoffs. You got to know who your big dogs are. You got to give them the ball. You don't draw anything on the chalkboard. You say, I have a functional brain. I'm going to give it to my best players and let them win this game. I don't have to draw a scheme up. Give Kyren the rock, you would have won that game.
I agree. I mean, look at in the playoff, and to add to that thought, I mean, the playoffs, gentlemen, agree or disagree with me on this. In my opinion, the best players win you playoff games. When the scheme ain't working, when you draw up on the chalk, the whiteboard ain't working, what you prep for all week isn't going well. Sometimes your best players, you need to feed them, get them the ball, create opportunities for them somehow, some way, and let them do their thing. And Kyren was one of those guys. He's an all-pro after missing 5 games or 4 games, whatever it was. You're only playing 12. I mean,
when your backup running back is running people over, the team is telling you, like, let's do this, right? The right side of the Rams line, Hammerstein and Dotson were just hammering people. And, it's like, we've been talking about it. It's just, you have to play the game based on what's happening on the field, not what's happening in your mind, right, Coach McKay? You got to see what's going on, you got to see what's unfolding in front of you. The game is telling you this is where it's going to be won or lost. And that, listen, Stafford had a great game, no question about it, right? I mean, there were no turnovers in this game.
Crazy.
There were no turnovers in this game. right? And the one time they got near Goff, what did he try to do? A two-handed lateral. He was ready to throw this game away. He was basically saying, listen, if you give me the opportunity, I'm going to throw this game away.
Yeah.
And
And to add to that thought, now we're just talking about all the things we didn't like. So feeding Kyron, not enough. He was underutilized. And real quick, I know people were saying, "Oh, he was hurt." That was towards the end of the game, guys.
yeah,
Where his hand got sprained, broken, whatever it is. And I hope he'll be okay. But what about the other 3.5 quarters of football? Unacceptable. Anyway, we'll move on. But to your point about Goff, when he was not pressured, 22 of 22 for 277 yards and a touchdown. No different than his time as a Rams quarterback. Kept clean, he'll dice you up. When he was pressured, 0 for 5. Didn't complete a single pass, and he was sacked 3 times. And then he had that rugby backwards toss to the tight end that, oh gosh, we would have jumped on that. Game would have been changed. But we didn't blitz him enough. We did not pressure him enough. And there was a couple moments in the game that I saw where Aaron Donald was getting triple teamed and nobody else was winning their one-on-ones. That sucked to see. Kobe Turner didn't. Michael Hoyt didn't. Byron Young didn't. And the same thing on the 4th and goal where Michael Hoyt's in coverage, where we were in a goal line set, and then they obviously shifted to the trio solo group on the right side where Laporta had that, kind of that late slant on Hoyt. The entire defensive line got put on their ass on that play, which is why Goff was just chilling, called his lady, and then threw the touchdown pass to Michael Hoyt on that 4th and goal. I mean, our D-line did not have a great day when Aaron Donald was getting his typical double and triple teams, and that was a big factor. But when we blitzed, which wasn't often, it worked, and I'm just sad that this staff particularly knew that Goff under pressure folds, and we didn't do it hardly at all, which is another thing that I think cost us this game, as well as Kyron not being fed like he should be. And anyway,
when they did blitz, Ernest Jones was all over him. Almost every time. So, all right, Mark, any last minute final thoughts on this game? I know you gave your recap and your rehash, but just give us a summary for the roundtable here.
Yeah, I mean, you guys have all said it already. Not running the ball in the red zone. I wonder if the lack of blitzing was 2 things. We've given up so many deep balls, and then we don't have Jordan Fuller. And maybe they took that into consideration. I'm just guessing here. Maybe they figured, let's go back to the true bend, don't break, which worked in the second half, not so much in the first half. And then it's still frustrating, though, because that last possession, a couple of things go our way, and we still win this game. All that said, if Havenstein doesn't commit that holding, the holding call, if they get the call on Puka on the jersey tug, hey, maybe Brett Maher kicks the field goal, and then Aaron Donald sacks Jared Goff on the Lions' last possession, and the Rams win. And then on top of that, this seems to happen to the Rams a lot. Their kicker is the longest kick of his career, I think, and he nails it, and that ended up being the difference. So
yeah, of course.
Yeah,
but real quick, gentlemen, I know that was a lot of negative for me and probably Paul as well. But I just want to say some positives. Can everyone just stop disregarding Matthew Stafford as not a top 10 elite quarterback? Top 5, I would say. Dude was a monster. He was the big bad villain coming in to steal your Detroit Lions soul. He was ready for it, and he almost did it. When he was getting stepped on, late hits, his knuckles were falling off after slamming into the helmet. His thumb was getting battered. Dude was probably knocked out for a good cool second because that replay was hardcore when they, showed that back on television. I was like, oh no. But
yes, someone shared a collage of his throws just from that Lions game, and there was, I think, 3 or 4 no-look passes.
He's filthy,
dude. Flick of the wrist, perfect bullet passes, 20 yards down the field. Yeah, he's
He's fantastic.
One
and
when he wrapped around the defender's body that was crashing in on him, threw it sidearm, led the receiver, and it was a bullet spiral. And I mean, I was just like, this is as he's almost ready to fall back onto his, just get crushed. So
let's be real about this. If the current Matthew Stafford was on this current Lions team and the current Jared Goff was on this Rams team, the Lions absolutely kick our ass. I don't think it's a debate, truthfully, based on how we played. If that version of the Matthew Stafford was on this version of the Lions, we lose by a touchdown or more, I think. And it's ugly because he's not going to miss the passes like Jared Goff did in the second half. I'll tell you that. So,
and it's a shame too, because a couple of things lead me to this conclusion is that when they interviewed a lot of the Rams players, they were like, I really thought we were going to win. I really thought we were going to win. I really thought we were going to win, and when people start saying that, that's a bad attitude to come to a football game with, right? It's like you thought you were going to win or you were going to do what you could to win the game. It's a totally different thing. And I said it last week, I said, Campbell's going to have these guys ready to play. If you show up, you're going to get smacked, right? If you're thinking that they're just going to lie down for you. And that's what happened too. The Rams came in with not a good attitude. They weren't ready to play. The defensive game plan, and honestly, I do think that they were probably expecting to get more of a pass rush from their front four, but they were flat. From the beginning of the game, they were flat.
Yeah, it was looking bad, man, that first quarter. Everybody.
The telltale sign of a defense that's not ready to play is missed tackles early in the game. The missed tackles, lack of gap discipline early in the game, the running game got going. And the minute they focus on gap discipline in the second half, what happened? Detroit couldn't run the ball, right? Detroit could not run the ball. So the Rams came in with that attitude because from the beginning of the season, it was one of those seasons, right? They were like, hey, we're just going to see how the season progresses. And that sort of laissez-faire attitude is not going to get it done in the playoffs. And it's hard to change that attitude for like a 3-game swing. Say, okay, we've played that way for 14 games, and now all of a sudden we're going to get into playoff mode. They just couldn't. It just couldn't be done. And that, Stafford came to play, which is a shame. So, here's your quarterback that has stood up for you guys, right? Got a spinal / neck injury last year, got knocked down in the game, and you guys couldn't step it up for him for like the final 2 minutes of the game. So the Rams as a unit, this is 2 seasons now, right? 2021 is like eons ago. Now it's 2 seasons, all right, that this team has not been able to get their act together. Whether it's, and I think 2 things need to happen moving forward. Stop the retirement talk. If you want to retire, walk away. You won 1 Super Bowl. 1. Okay? There's a guy out there who won 6. Every year he was like, I'm going to go win another one. Which attitude should you be bringing to the table, right? If you want to talk retirement because you won 1, then walk away. Sit next to Aikman and do the sports games. That's fine. Go right ahead.
And to that, Paul, luckily, reporters asked Aaron Donald, Sean, and Stafford, and they're like, I'll see you next year. So they're ready. It wasn't like last year and previous years where it was on the fence for everybody. So I think that's good. We got that answer. No one's talking about it, luckily.
Exactly. Yeah. And the answer really should be, I'm going to play until I can, until they cart me off the field. I'm going to play, right? Instead of this year-by-year nonsense. It's really hard to get everybody into that mode of like, like Mark was saying, like, we have the foundation. We're going to be a blue blood squad, and every year, like, let me think about it. I'll see you at the team barbecue and I'll let you know. That's just not the mode you want to be in from day one, in training camp. You want to be in like, listen, we're in it. Listen, now they're really in it. Because you know why? They said 2023 wasn't our year. It's going to be 2024, right?
Yeah.
You better show up for 2024. You better pray there aren't major injuries, because this is the healthiest the Rams have been in a long time, was 2023, and they pissed it away. So you better pray that 2024 shapes up the same way, because that's where you put all your eggs in that one basket. So
Yeah.
we'll see how it plays out.
It's true. Let's all remember the memo team president Kevin Demoff sent to season ticket holders
That's
back
right.
in April or March. I don't remember exactly, talking about, hey, basically, I'll sum it up for you in non-political terms. Bear with us. We have good draft picks. We have a lot of money in 2024. This team, we're not going to give up. We're going to try to compete for the West and make the playoffs. That's our goal.
Right. By
And,
not having a kicker and not having a backup quarterback.
yeah. So,
And what
hey,
nobody's talking about is, would that last drive have been different, Mark? Right? Would that last drive have been different, Tom, Ian, when you knew you had a kicker that all you got to do is get it within 50 and it's going to be between the uprights?
Hey.
Would that
Yes.
last drive have
Of
been
course,
different? Would
yeah,
the
of
play
course.
calls have been different? Right?
Yeah.
Think about that for a second. Even Chris Collinsworth said it, because I forgot who was calling the game with Chris Collinsworth. He goes, "Oh, they're
Here we
almost in field goal range," and Collinsworth pissed his pants laughing because he knew there's no way McVay's running out Maher to win this game. And Detroit
Yeah.
knew it. The entire defense knew it, that
Yeah.
there's no way that they're going to run out that field goal kicker. You all knew it, and I knew it deep in my heart. So
Yeah, of course.
did that kicker, in sort of like an indirect way, come back to haunt them? Absolutely.
Yeah, for sure.
Absolutely. It changed the whole complexion of that last drive once they crossed the midfield.
Yeah.
Yeah. So just kind of to reframe the moving on to now in the off season. I mean, just thinking back, like when you guys said coming into the season, it was, like you was talking about, we were 3-6 and we were already talking about the, who's proven themselves, who hasn't.
I know.
And the next thing you know, it's a 7 out of 8 after the bye. And here
Right.
we are, and not only a playoff game, but against the Lions, and then that gets everybody, all excitable, and next thing you know, we're back in expectations mode, and that's just, here we are. So, but going into the off season, Mark, I mean, what do you think? We talked about the priorities. I mean, I think we all tend to agree on that. But is there anything, aside from a corner and an edge and a kicker, that is there anything else that you think this team needs to do? Is there?
Well, I think the thing that turned this team around was finally having a solid, reliable, kick butt offensive line, and we can't let that get away from us. We have to make sure that continues, and we have a lot of depth. Kevin Dotson's a free agent, though.
Oh, we better re-sign him, Mark.
Yeah, I know.
Oh my goodness. Let's Rams front office, Les Snead. Please, let's all, everyone right now with me and everyone listening in. Just remember, 2018, great old line. What happened? We don't re-sign linemen. 2019 was a big regression. Okay.
Right.
2021, we had an awesome O-line. We didn't re-sign some people.
Austin
2022 was a disaster. 2023, here we are, a pretty good O-line. Let's not repeat history, please.
So let me ask you about that O-line, Mark. It was a very good O-line, but it wasn't a dominant O-line. I think that's a fair estimation, right? It was
Yeah. Well,
middle, just above 50, 10 to 15, or depending on what you're looking at. So let's just talk about the O-line real quick. Who on the O-line do you think needs just go down the 5? Who's an absolute lock we need them to come back, and who's somebody we could look to upgrade?
I think the only position that we could really look to upgrade is left tackle, assuming we bring back Dotson. I mean, you could theoretically improve every one of them, right? Rob Havenstein's not going anywhere, but he is getting older. He's nearing the end of his career, probably a couple more years, I would hope. But I think Avila, Shelton, and Dotson, if you come back with those three, I'm perfectly fine with that, and expend your resources elsewhere. I think Alaric Jackson is good, but just think what this offensive line would be like if you added a real stud left tackle. I don't know if there will be one there at the 20th pick, and there's other things we haven't talked about yet, some deficiencies on defense. But to answer your question, I think left tackle, although Alaric Jackson generally played pretty well.
I think he's a restricted free agent this year,
Right.
if I'm not mistaken.
So this is
we
the
could
thing.
get him
Let
for
me
$3 or $4 or $5 million.
Yeah, he's
let me
paying
just
good. Yeah.
let me just add one other thing about the offensive line. Is we need 9 offensive linemen. Okay, so even if we draft with the 20th pick, select a left tackle, still bring back Lyric Jackson, keep Noteboom, keep Brian Allen. I'm serious. We've seen what happens. One guy goes down. Keep 8 or 9 guys that you are really comfortable plugging in there. Zach Thomas, a hard no. Logan Brass, probably a hard no. And some of these other guys, but Brian Allen, Joseph Noteboom, Lyric Jackson, if he ends up being a second stringer, I'm okay with that.
Yeah, to add into your who stays and who should be upgraded. I mean, look at man, maybe a Lark possibly because I've talked about it on here where there's been those moments where he was the Cowboy game was a disaster, the Green Bay game was a disaster. I'm trying to think of another one where he played really, really, really poor, but he stepped up over time. And hey, to be an undrafted dude and to be playing at this level, who would have thought? To be honest with you, now Coleman Showman might be another one people might want to throw names out. I've heard this conversation, but I thought he's had a nice season. It's hard to find a solid center or a good center. I thought he's played awesome. I mean, is he Jason Kelsey level, Creed Humphrey level, where he's burying people in the dirt? No, but he's got great command. Rob Havenstein says that Coleman knows everyone's assignment like the back of his hand, no matter the front, and he's always checking in with him, pre-game, pre-snap, post-snap. They're shouting at each other for protections and who's coming and who's not. So I think it's hard to get rid of somebody that has that much knowledge to help out the whole O-line as a unit who's played solid. So I think Alark and everybody else needs to stay. I mean, Alva is going to stay clearly. Havenstein's still under contract, still playing good. I mean, we even let go Kevin Dotson. The dude who's replacing him better be good, or Kevin better be getting paid insane amount of dollars by X team for him to leave. Because it better be a Matt Gay situation where they make him one of the highest paid guards in history for him to get away from his team. Because guys, if Stafford is not protected and is not kept healthy, we have no shot for any playoff run in the future. It's that simple. And that should be number one priority. Protect that. Protect number 9. How do you do that? Keep your good offensive alignment. Please. Tony Pastors, figure out the money.
Yeah. No, I think everybody, I think Havenstein came out and wrote a big, I don't know where that was printed in, but he wrote that, just making the case for Dotson and just, how great it was to play next to him. So
deserves it.
Okay. So we got O-line. We need to keep the band together and bring in a couple reinforcements. And then how about the running back room, Paul? What's your take there? Obviously we got our guy with Iron Kyron, but what's your take on our backup situation there? Do we didn't see much of Evans. Freeman, we could bring back. I don't know. I don't think there's going to be a big market for him. Ronnie Rivers, as I think a restricted free agent. So, what's your thoughts? Yeah, he's an exclusive rights free agent. What's your thoughts on the running back room?
So yeah, I love what I saw from Rivers. I mean, the dude is a junkyard dog, man. Absolutely perfect for sitting behind Kyron Williams. Everybody knows. I love the Rolls Royce, but the reality is, and we watch it all game. I mean, the RB2, RB3 slots in the Rams offense, as important as they are to us theoretically, the way it plays out, they get very few touches. So even if the Rams are winning, it doesn't really change. They don't get as many touches. So I like Rivers. I would love for the Rams to have maybe a little bit more sizzle, maybe from the running back 3 slot, somebody that they could develop. Like me personally, jumping ahead to the draft, Marshawn Lloyd from USC, right? He would be great.
Couldn't help himself.
Just throwing it out there. Marshawn Lloyd sitting behind Iron Kyron, that would be awesome. Defenses would be a nightmare. I mean, he'd never get the rock because Sean McVay would be like, I didn't get to him yet, right? In handing him the ball. But I like what the running back room looks like. And Rivers brings a lot of those intangibles. He's tough. He's steady. He's like a mini Iron Kyron. And, Rolls Royce, like I said, was just an unused asset all year. They would have done so much damage in the ground game if they had utilized their running backs the way they should have and just changed the dynamic of this offense. It would have been a wonderful smash mouth offense that would have just opened up so much for the Rams. And, it has to be said, listen, this is 3 years in a row, right? 2 of which where Stafford got hurt. And I don't know how he made it through 2021 because he wasn't on the Rams for 16 games. If he was, he probably would have made it through 2021. There's something that really McVay has to embrace. You got to protect your quarterback. And for a coach that loves to throw the ball, how do you not protect your quarterback? They have to do a better job. And it's not the O-line. It really, really wasn't the O-line. It's just exposing him at a time, where he might be vulnerable, exposing him at a time where you don't have the offense isn't hitting on all cylinders. The momentum is not with you. So going back to your original question, the running back room looks good. You could definitely use low round picks in the draft to make it even better. They have young players. Let's see how they develop. So sort of going along with that with the tight end room, now we're probably going to see Davis Allen. And what's going to be interesting is, do they bring Higbee back? I'm sorry, not Higbee. My boy Bryson Hopkins. Right? Are they going to bring him back? Because if I'm not mistaken, isn't he a free agent? Bryson Hopkins?
Yeah, he's a free agent, and he almost certainly won't be back, right? I mean,
Yeah.
There's Hunter Long as well.
Yeah, we have Hunter Long there, and Davis Allen, and
they're gone.
They signed Higbee. So
well, let's talk about that real quick, man. Dang, Higbee in that ACL sucks. Announced earlier today. There's speculation on Sunday night. Wasn't good. Yesterday, we're gonna do tests, and then today it's confirmed that he tore that thing. And man, oh man, that's just disappointing. Higbee's just a gritty grinder where he plays through anything, man. And I know a lot of Rams Nation out here is like, oh, look at Higbee dropping this, doing that. Look at him. I mean, dude's just playing with half his body functioning all the time, it feels like. And you got to give him credit for that, man. He'll do whatever he can. As long as he can walk, think, and throw his body around, he's going to try to be out there. And he's going to miss half the season next year at the bare minimum. We might him.
Why not bring Bryson Hopkins back, right? Because you're going to need him.
I mean, we're going to draft the tight end again. I expect that to be the case. I mean, we'll see if those 2 gentlemen who are free agents will be back. I mean, I would say probably not. But for the future, as we're talking about it, if Davis Allen has to be the guy, I'm not feeling bad about that at all.
Not at all.
I mean, I'm feeling pretty good about that, actually. Another rookie steal out of Clemson. He had a great game against Baltimore where he scored his first touchdown. I thought he could have blocked better, but he had good blocks. I remember watching on film, like, oh, there we go. He just needs to be more consistent. First-year guy, he'll get better. In the passing game, he's dynamic. Think about that big, third and, I don't know, I want to say 10, 11, where he chunked off 25 yards to get into the red zone, spun out of some tackles. He had some other big catches. He's ready. And that's on the positive side of this Higbee news. The negative is I hope he heals. Luckily, reconstructive surgery on knees is pretty amazing now, especially that Neil Eltrosh is our team doctor. He's saving everybody's Achilles tendons nowadays and other knee injuries. I mean, he'll get repaired. I just hope that this won't be a reason for why the Rams want to cut bait like they did at Robert Woods. Because we got to be honest. We got to be real about it. I love Coach McVay. I love Les Snead and Tony Pastores and our whole leadership, but they are savages. They don't give a damn what you've done for the organization or any of that. They'll move on from you, man. We've seen it time after time after time. We give you a big contract. 2 years later, see you, Brandon Cooks. See you, Jalen. See you, Jared Goff. See you, Michael Brockers. Who else am I blanking on right now? I mean,
Robert Woods.
Robert Woods. I mentioned earlier.
But the only thing I'll say about that, let me just add to that though, just for the listeners out there. I think that's true. I think from the decisioning standpoint, they are definitely thinking about it very objectively on what's going to be in the best interest of the team. But the way they go about handling those guys, I think, is very classy. And that's one of the reasons why we're able to attract free agency. They let Robert Woods pick a team, go somewhere where he was going to get a lot of play time and get some targets. Same thing with Jalen Ramsey. He wanted to go to Miami. I mean, the way they handle things, and they do take a hit, on a little bit. They're going to take too much of a hit, but they took a little bit of a hit in what they could have gotten back for those guys to accommodate their both of those guys. And those are guys that were big contributors to this team, right, for a long time. So the way they handle players is not, we're getting rid of you and screw you. We're going to do our best, right? They do take care of the guy as well. So I just add that caveat. So let's move on to the wide receiver room, Mark. We have everybody coming back except for
isn't DeMarcus a free agent?
Yeah, Demarcus Robinson. Yeah, everybody except DeMarcus. So they got Kupp, Nakua, Atwell, and then that's pretty much it, right? And then we got Skoranek and Trammell's backup. So do we add do we try and bring back DeMarcus Robinson? What do we do there?
Well, I'm just concerned about Cooper Kupp. Is he, I just don't know. I don't know what's going on with him. Is he ever going to be the Triple Crown Cooper Kupp that we saw? And with that said, I mean, I assume we're bringing back Tutu, and obviously Puka and Kupp, and Puka we don't need to talk about him at all. I think they need to add a wide receiver, even if they bring back DeMarcus Robinson, just as this offense is so dependent on productive wide receivers. Maybe there's a free agent out there. That's the other thing we got to talk about at some point is start ranking and stacking these free agents and which ones make sense. But yeah, I would think they're going to draft a wide receiver. It's a question of how early. If you're going to ask me what positions the Rams are going to draft right now, I got it wrong last year, but this year it would be a left tackle, a wide receiver, and a cornerback, and spend the free agent money on a edge rusher. That's just off the top of my head. But to answer your question, I'm just with not knowing which Cooper Kupp we're going to get, we need to improve the wide receiver group.
Yeah. So let's move on to we have 3 wide receivers.
Wait, hold on. We got to talk about this with Kupp. I just think.
Oh yeah, go ahead.
This has me thinking. We just got to keep it real, gentlemen. He's injury prone. We have to be honest about the situation. Think about it. 2018 tears his knee. I mean, it feels like every player tears their knee. She's crazy. Tears their knee a ton. So that happens. Then in 2020, he injures his knee in the wild card game in Seattle, the COVID year. Can't play against the Packers. We lose that game convincingly. I think he would have made that game a lot closer. Then 2021, best season ever for a receiver. Fantastic. 2019 was good too. 2022, obviously he has the tightrope surgery. His ankles, sprained to hell, and he can't finish the year. Misses the majority of the season. Then we begin this year. IR, hamstring, has to see a specialist. Jeez, that's not
specialist
good.
In Minnesota of all places as well.
Yeah, not good, right? Not good. And then we see tweaks and things about other injuries. Then he has his arm wrapped the last 3 weeks. Heavily wrapped. Not an arm sleeve like Stafford. This thing is wrapped in special, it looks different than things I've seen a receiver ever have on their elbow, other than a brace. And I just think, even watching the film, guys, and again, I think if Stafford hits him on that pass that he missed him when he got pressured, then, his stats are looking probably pretty solid. And I think if Stafford also hits Kupp more back shoulder instead of a fade route on that first red zone drive, then he probably scores as well. So, I mean, we're saying all that. We're like, oh, Kupp's fine. But I just think he just looks beat up, man.
Yeah, and he has said
beat up on film. He did in the Lions game watching film. He just looks beat up.
And he has said that he really hates playing on the turf, and I think that's part of it too.
So I preface all that to say, hey man, I'm just Rams Nation. Like I said about Higbee, this team and front office are savages. If that, I don't know exactly what his cap number is. Maybe Mark and Tom, you guys are more informed about that at the moment than me. If that number doesn't make sense, don't think for a second they won't move on from him. Now
There's
that
not,
Puka's that dude, you know what I'm
yeah.
saying? Let's just be real.
And so to extend the conversation just a tad, is this Cup? It just turned 30, right? We talked about that. King Cup, right? Just turned 30,
Yeah.
right? That's always the barometer for wide receivers. His contract is 2024, is up after 2024. So I don't think there's a single player on this roster that 2024 really means more to than Cooper Kupp, right? So think about that. The other aspect of it is the way this offense is geared up and the way McVay uses his wide receivers. He is a high volume coach, right? So when Kupp was the lead guy, Kupp got all the balls, right? Puka gets all the balls, right? And he does take a lot out of you. It takes a plus with the blocking on top of that. Remember the Rams wide receivers, right? So he was playing out of the slot, right? He was the motion guy blocking before Puka came, right? Now Puka's playing the Z, right, a lot, and also a little bit of X and slot. He can play anywhere, right? And that's now been the dynamic for Puka. So it does take a lot of wear and tear out of the wide receivers. So, I think for King Cup is getting him back to, and I think it's really evolving his role within the offense now, that instead of him being the high volume guy, and it's totally okay. Instead of him being the high volume guy, he's going to be your, high efficiency guy. When you need a play or when you need to move the chains, he's going to be like, get back to that, especially in the red zone. That's where he did a lot of damage back in the day, was when those option routes, he was unstoppable inside the 20. It was 6 every single time, right? So I think that's going to be 2024. The spotlight's going to be really, and I think you're absolutely right. Management's going to take a look. Do we move on with King Cup, or is it going to be one of those cases that after 2024 we're going to move on and somebody else is going to take that slot role?
Yeah.
Now, to Mark's point, I think, well, first of all, Trammell should not be on this roster. If Trammell is on this roster next year, I will not watch a single Ram game because there's no reason for him to be on this roster. So let's be honest. How are you wasting a spot on this kid is beyond me. So that's number one. You definitely have to bring back Demarcus Robinson because look at the productivity a WR3 adds to this offense. It's just unbelievable. I mean,
hopefully we can afford it though, because I mean, he's not signing for the vet minimum again. He's not going to sign for the vet minimum.
Absolutely.
He's played out of that for sure.
Yeah, this was a reclamation year for him for sure.
Yeah,
right. And wasn't that
so you know, Cup's cap number next year is $30 million, but he has a dead cap number of $47 million.
So he stayed. So he's played that. He's playing out the contract. So the whole idea of freeing up this money is so that you can bring back guys that are going to be productive. The thing with Demarcus Robinson, right, taking one player at a time individually, is this. Demarcus Robinson is a winner. That's number one. Number two, he is custom made for this offense. He's a willing blocker. He's got length, and he can play the Z, he can play the X, and he can play out of the slot if you need him. So put all that, not all wide receivers can do that and can fit into this Rams offense. The other thing about this high volume offense is this. Remember when everybody was ripping Allen Robinson, right? Was it Allen Robinson, or is it a product of, in this offense, it is really difficult to integrate 3 receivers and get them all like a comparable amount of touches, right? So it's almost like a triangle offense where there's going to be an apex receiver and you're going to have 2 base receivers in the amount of touches that they get. And it makes a lot of sense. So Demarcus Robinson, definitely. Drafting a really good wide receiver to play, with Ben Skoranek, Sands, Trammell, right? And Tutu, rounding out that wide receiver room, somebody that can develop, that if Coop does move on, you can just stick them right in. And there are some really great, and for our next segment, when we do the draft segment, whenever we do that, Ram Nation, we'll talk about some of the wide receivers that are available all across this draft. The strongest position in this draft by far is wide receiver. And bringing in a dynamic young wide receiver would make so much sense. Low cap number. You got the cap rookie contract for a couple of years. And wide receivers have shown over the last 10 years that they can play right away and be productive.
Yeah, I mean, gentlemen, we're gonna continue to draft skill players on offense every year because you just never know, right? You get a Puka, you get a Kyron in the 5th, you get a Davis Allen late in the draft too, who are going to be productive starters for your team for many years. So we're going to continue to draft receivers. Tutu's not going to come back after next year. We all know it. Skoranek won't be re-signed either. So I mean, it's just those type of positions where it's going to be cycled through. That's just the reality of the Rams and the way we use them as like fullbacks, for God's sakes. And our receivers do a great job being fullbacks too. The wear and tear that they take, it accelerates that process. So we'll see. We'll see what happens. I hope Kupp stays, but I wouldn't be shocked if we hear some shocking news in the next year and a half about how he's got shipped off. Hope not.
And good luck to Robert Woods, who's in the playoffs. The hammer, he's bringing it, right? That's good karma, right?
Yeah.
Bramley wound up where he was supposed to be and helped Stroud become a great player.
Can you think of anyone that would be a better wide receiver coach than Cooper Kupp?
Oh, my gosh, right? Are you
I
kidding?
think he already is, actually.
Yeah, I know. Well, he coached up Puka pretty good, didn't he?
Right.
So,
Hey, Puka, you're a G. Remember that soundbite? That was awesome.
yes, he is a G.
That's the first half of our post-season roundtable, talking all things Rams with Ian, Paul, and Tom. We're going to come back tomorrow, next episode, for the second half of that, talking all defense. That's going to do it for this episode. Remember, you can reach us at ramsuppodcast@gmail.com. And don't forget about our YouTube channel. Our handle is at laramsup.com. Till next time, keep the horns up, stay safe, and have fun out there.